Welcome to this presentation of the English Language Proficiency Assessments for California, or ELPAC 101. We're going to start with the initial and summative ELPAC, and we'll get to the alternate ELPAC in a few slides. The ELPAC is aligned with the 2012 California English Language Development Standards and consists of two separate assessments. First up is the initial ELPAC. The initial ELPAC is a screener, which means it is a short assessment designed to determine whether a student is an English learner. This is represented by a small alpaca. The initial ELPAC is to be administered to students within 30 days of initial or first enrollment in a California school if they have not taken the ELPAC or CELP before, they have not been classified as an EL before in California, and their home language survey lists a language other than English. More specifically, within 30 calendar days from the first day of enrollment, the student must be identified based on the home language survey. The parent must be notified that the student will be tested, the student must be assessed and the assessment scored, and then the results must be communicated and reported to the parents. Initial ELPAC testing can happen at any time during the school year. Now let's talk about the summative ELPAC. The summative ELPAC is administered only to students who are identified as English learners to gauge their level of proficiency. This is not a screener, but a full summative assessment, hence the larger alpaca. Students designated as EL are required to take the summative ELPAC annually until they are reclassified as fluent English proficient. The testing window for the summative ELPAC is February 1st through May 31st each year. Now let's answer the question, why do we test? And again, we'll start with the initial ELPAC. Identifying students who need help learning in English is important, so students get the support they need to do well in school while receiving instruction in all school subjects. Students whose home language survey indicates a language other than English are given the English language acquisition status of TBD until they are tested on the initial ELPAC. The results of the initial ELPAC will identify students as having one of two English language acquisition statuses, either English learner, also known as EL, or initially fluent English proficient, also known as IFEP. Now let's talk about the summative. It is important to ensure that students continue to receive the support they need to do well in school. The summative ELPAC provides local educational agencies with information to assist them in making program placement decisions and in determining which students may be eligible for reclassification. Note that the ELPAC is only one piece of data, and local educational agencies should use more than one piece of data to place students. The administration of an English language proficiency assessment is both a state and federal requirement. For the initial ELPAC, the laws require LEAs to test students who are newly enrolled at a California public school and whose primary language is not English. For the summative ELPAC, the law requires LEAs to annually test students who are English learners until they meet reclassification criteria. Both the initial and summative ELPAC are computer-based assessments. However, there are some exceptions. The writing domain for kindergarten, grade 1, and grade 2 remains a paper-pencil test. This decision was based on research and was made to ensure valid results for children in the lower grades on the writing domain. Also, students with IEPs that are unable to orient to a computer screen are allowed the use of paper-pencil tests. The ELPAC tests students in 4 domains: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. For the listening domain, students might be asked to listen to a story and then answer some questions. For the speaking domain, students might be asked to talk about a picture of a scene they are shown. For the reading domain, students might be asked to read a short story and then answer multiple choice questions. For the writing domain, students might be asked to describe or write about a picture they are shown, or to copy letters and/or sentences. The level of complexity depends on the grade level and the task type. To help classroom teachers better understand the expectations of each domain area, the CDE has published a set of documents called the Domain Info Sheets. The primary focus of the Domain Information Sheets is to describe different task types within the portion of the assessment. These sheets are also available in Spanish, which may be helpful when explaining the test format to parent groups, such as an English Learner Advisory Committee, commonly called ELAC, and District English Learner Advisory Committees, called DLAC. Next, let's focus on who takes the alternate ELPAC. Just like the general ELPAC, the alternate ELPAC has an initial and a summative. The alternate ELPAC is for students with the most significant cognitive disabilities. Students who take the initial alternate ELPAC must meet the following 4 criteria. They have not taken the ELPAC before. They have not been classified as an English learner in California. Their home language survey lists a language other than English, and they must have been determined eligible for an alternate assessment by an IEP team. Now let's look at the summative alternate ELPAC. The summative alternate ELPAC is for English learners who have been determined eligible for alternate assessments by an IEP team. Students designated as English learners are required to take the summative alternate ELPAC annually until they are reclassified as fluent English proficient. As with the general ELPAC, the alternate ELPAC must be administered to students in kindergarten through grade 12 and students up to 22 years old if they are enrolled in an LEA. Please note that transitional kindergartners, year 1 of a 2-year kindergarten program, do take the kindergarten test. But why do we have an alternate ELPAC? Over the last couple of years, both the California Department of Education and ETS have collaboratively worked to develop a statewide alternate ELPAC aligned with the 2012 California English Language Development Standards. There are 3 main benefits for the alternate ELPAC. First, it provides a consistent statewide measure of English language proficiency for students with the most significant cognitive disabilities. Second, the alternate ELPAC is aligned with the 2012 ELD standards via the ELD connectors. The ELD connectors are the ELD standards reduced in depth, breadth, and complexity that are appropriate for the student population. And third, the alternate ELPAC allows students to use their preferred communication modes for testing that are used during instruction and familiar to the test examiner. For example, this allows responses via eye gaze, picture cards, and other similar communication methods. The alternate ELPAC uses integrated task types. These task types use expressive and receptive communication modes, which assess the 4 ELPAC domains in an integrated manner. Receptive task types will incorporate both reading and listening, while expressive task types will incorporate both speaking and writing. These task types are assessed via students' individually preferred communication modes. The task type information sheets describe different task types within each portion of the assessment. Shifting our focus away from the alternate ELPAC, let's talk about the timeline for administering all ELPACs. Any student new to your LEA who meets the criteria we talked about earlier needs to be assessed with the initial ELPAC or the initial alternate ELPAC if applicable. This can happen at any time that you receive new students, so potentially all year long. Remember, the 30-day window begins when a student enrolls. The summative ELPAC and the summative alternate ELPAC are given in the spring between February 1st and May 31st. You're probably thinking, that sounds about the same time CAASPP testing takes place, and you're right. This makes the test scheduling activity between the 2 assessments so important. If you don't wear both the CAASPP and ELPAC hat, be sure you closely coordinate with the CAASPP coordinator at your LEA around testing schedules. Let's take a few minutes to talk through how the ELPAC is scored and what scores students will see on their student score reports. We're going to start with the summative ELPAC scores. Remember, the summative ELPAC is a full-length assessment, the larger ELPACA. Because of this, we're able to draw valid data at the individual domain levels and not just the overall level, because there are more test items. There are 4 domains: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. At the domain level, we won't get scores, but we do get a performance level. And there are 3 possible performance levels: beginning to develop, somewhat to moderately developed, and well developed. Listening and speaking combine to make the oral language composite score. Reading and writing combine to make the written language composite score. And at these composite levels, students will get a score and a performance level. Oral language and written language composite scores combine to make the overall score. The overall score will also fall into one of 4 levels. The levels for the overall score and the composite scores are called level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4. Another question we get a lot is about the weighting of, or the values assigned to, the oral and written language portions of the test. In kindergarten, the weighting of the summative ELPAC overall score is 70% oral language and 30% written language. In grades 1 through 12, the weighting of the summative ELPAC overall score is 50% oral language and 50% written language. Now let's take a moment and draw some comparisons between the different scores and levels. Remember that we have the 4 levels of the summative ELPAC overall score. These are the same 4 levels that are available for the oral language score and the written language score. And again, they're called level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4. But remember, the domain level reports at 3 levels for each domain. And those levels, again, are called beginning to develop, somewhat to moderately developed, and well developed. So how do these 3 levels compare to the 4 levels for the overall and composite scores? The beginning to develop domain level aligns with level 1, easy peasy. The well-developed level aligns with level 4, nice and clean. The somewhat to moderately developed level covers both level 2 and level 3. So if you have a student that was somewhat to moderately developed in listening and somewhat to moderately developed in speaking, they could end up in level 2 or level 3 for their oral language composite score. Now let's do the same thing for the initial ELPAC. For the initial ELPAC, we have the same 4 domains: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. But remember, the initial ELPAC is a screener, the small ELPACA. So there's no data reported at the domain level on the initial ELPAC. There just aren't enough test items to get a valid score or level here. Listening and speaking combine to make the oral language composite. Reading and writing combine to make the written language composite. And students will get a performance level for oral and a performance level for written, but no scores. And those performance levels are beginning to develop, somewhat to moderately developed, and well developed. Oral and written language composites combine to make an overall score. The overall score will fall into one of 3 levels. The 3 achievement levels for the initial ELPAC are Initial Fluent English Proficient, or IFEP, Intermediate English Learner, or Novice English Learner. Now let's look at the weighting of the initial ELPAC, or again, the value assigned to each composite. In kindergarten, the weighting of the initial ELPAC overall score is 90% oral language and 10% written language. In grade 1, the weighting of the initial ELPAC overall score is 70% oral language and 30% written language. In grades 2 through 12, the weighting of the initial ELPAC overall score is 50% oral language and 50% written language. So how do we compare the initial ELPAC scores with the summative ELPAC scores? The answer is you don't. Do not, under any circumstances, try to compare results from the initial to the summative. Remember, they're 2 different tests with 2 different purposes. The initial is used to identify students for ELD services, and the summative is to measure annual progress. Comparing these scores would be like comparing apples to oranges. Summative alternate ELPAC scores will be produced from the results of the 2021-22 alternate ELPAC operational field test. Scores will be released in summer 2022 after standard setting is complete and the threshold scores are approved by the California State Board of Education in May of 2022. Since the alternate ELPAC uses integrated domains, remember receptive and expressive items, the student score reports, or SSRs, will look different from the SSRs for the initial ELPAC and the summative ELPAC. Also, the alternate ELPAC will have its own performance levels. Thank you for watching, and we hope you enjoy the pre-test trainings.